Dead Island 2 is now 1 year old, and has successfully survived the greatest challenge that every child must go through, the decision of if they become abandoned or not. And during that time, 2 major DLC expansions released thanks to the expansion pass, that being Haus and the Sola Festival. Following our Slayer protagonist named Danny DeVito, we traveled to some pretty quirked up places, and began to question what in the actual fuck LA was up to while we were slaying all of the ladies in downtown LA. This includes a beachside house that's actually a top secret sex cult that forced people to cut off their heads and sacrifice themselves to Noah's Ark so that they didn't succumb to the cooties virus. The church is also ran by the Dog of Wisdom. We also visit my local rock festival featuring enemies that can whip me with Daddy's belt, as well as my favorite baddie, God's biggest Coonstain, who makes everything wet and moves around in puddles of the red version of that one white substance, as well as featuring some unique areas such as Lurlin Village, if it wasn't a joke, the Indie Zone, otherwise known as the sister location to the Anime Zone, and a main stage that will more than happily clap your ass cheeks and show you the horrors of your mother. I know it's only been 3 months since I made my video covering the base game of Dead Island 2, but it's time to return to my new zombified home and play its DLC, which shockingly is really good. So strap in for a wild ride as we head into the Cult of the Damned, through the Festival of Whippersnappers, and potentially die to literal zombie jizz as I play Dead Island 2 and its pair of DLC expansions, Haus and the Sola Festival. Welcome back to Hell A, Slayers. It's been a mere 3 months since I last touched on this title, and there's quite a fair bit to touch on. Since we last visited the streets of Hollywood Boulevard, I've completed all of the side quests in Hell A, as well as gathered all of the legendary weapons, because why not? And while I'm at max level, I still die pretty often to stupid shit like a loser. 3 months later, it's now time to put my $100 down payment of my limbs, which was actually $32, to good use by seeing if Dead Island 2's DLC was worth the wait. Before we begin, I want to mention that I will not be covering any major gameplay segments in this video, with the exception being any major new gameplay elements that have been added with the expansion pass. So if you want to see my full gameplay breakdown of Dead Island 2, please go check out my original video covering the entire base game, as I will not be explaining it here. So let's get into the meat of this video and kick off with the first expansion, Haus. Wait, why is it inside Barbie's house? Welcome to a random house sitting somewhere on the coastline of LA. Probably more like Santa Monica. I mean, LA doesn't look like this. It's here that we get introduced to what it can only be described as a cult of sorts that worships this fucker named Constantine. His goal is to help people ascend into something known as the Ark, as a way to escape the apocalypse without needing to be infected. This guy just sounds like any white dude ripped straight from the Bible. I've always liked that book. My favorite part is when they had a county-sized race war and my entire ego was shattered in the process. So was my wrist. After establishing ourselves inside the house, Constantine tells us through lots of non-important dialogue about a girl named Hope. TLDR, she ended up coming here and would later ascend into the Ark. And it's in his explanations that we learn that there's 3 trials that we're going to need to complete in order to see the Ark for ourselves, as well as solve this cultist problem. The first involves going into this neighborhood of sorts on Grove Street that looks like it came from a 1970s version of Utah. Why Utah? Because all cults are born there, just like every cute Mormon girl. There's also a "Don't walk on the grass" sign. I like this solely because what do you think happens when you walk on the grass? After exploring various houses and then burning my own weapon without actually realizing this was going to happen, my boomer brain didn't seem to understand that fire burns shit. Okay, shut up. We learn about dark brains. These are something that you'll come across during Haus that can unlock areas or special doors. To break these brains, you'll need access to the crossbow, the newest weapon to join your arsenal with this expansion. We'll get this a bit later on in the video, so while I'm not going to mention any more about dark brains here, just know that yes, you can make your own brain explode by simply shooting it with an arrow. We proceed to electrocute ourselves for some added fun, and then deal with the freaks on Reddit invading my own home, after they heard that I was having a super cool sleepover and that some fun activities were going to occur. We then proceed to tell our deepest secrets into a microphone that someone is going to hear. So if Danny is going to say one, then I'll say one too. One time, I tried to get a girlfriend, and yet I'm still single, so you can imagine how that ended up going. We make haste for The Deeper, perfectly describing what literally anyone is going to say in a video from that one website. It's here in The Deeper that I come to realize that even people in sussy cults party like it's the end of the world. This recording also proves that Veronique literally drowns Hope, and then plays it off like it's nothing, just like the baby. Making our way through The Deeper, we eventually arrive at Veronique's office, to find her beheaded head on a chair.
This is haute couture. A reminder that our bodies do not define us.
Sorry, honey, bodies do define you. Why else do you think us guys like girls so much? Now we begin a literal escort mission in which we need to bring Veronique's head back to the main part of the Haus complex, whilst dodging the hordes of zombies along the way. This segment isn't difficult per se, but it's going to be something you'll be doing more than once during your playthrough. What I'm saying is, get used to it, you're gonna do it again later. After placing her head back on her body, we start the second trial. This time we're heading into the suicide forest to find a certain somebody's head that roughly everyone knows about. We get told to find a mysterious well, and in doing so, Constantine tells me to light the fires in the forest to open the door, even though I already lit the fires before I got here. Yeah, suck it, Constantine. I did the steps earlier than you expected. Now stuck in what definitely is an arena, we now get to kill several hordes of zombies whilst there are 0 spectators. I'd rather be in the main lobby staring at the ceiling and thinking about how I want to eat redacted than being in this arena right now. After finally finding the special weapon, otherwise known as Shadow's Dick, we now gain the ability to destroy those dark brains that I mentioned earlier. And we can also insta-kill most mobs with a headshot. Welcome to the stealth section of the video. However, if you thought that this was going to be anything stealthy at all, then let me tell you that you're absolutely wrong. After escaping the deeper and running through an amount of grass so high that it'll make Ronald Reagan sweat, we begin the search for Young Ho's head at a diner in the suicide forest. Long Piglet's Diner. It's Squeal Hour. You get a special centerpiece from 5 to 9 p.m. on the weekdays, and it's only $8.95 per head. Now that's a steal if I've ever seen one. I just hope that I placed my order correctly this time. Last time the waitress didn't solve it properly.
Let me in! Let me in!
Oh, come on!
Who the fuck is disturbing my mukbang?
Yo, Uber Eats for my white ass?
Everyone?
I told you not to fuck with me, you pipsqueak fuckboy.
Oh, shit.
I made a
How do you fancy pancakes, fucker?
Welcome to the first boss, the culmination of what might happen if you were to piss off Technoblade so fucking hard that he actually became the blood god. There isn't that much to touch on about this fight, mostly because Long Piglet is simply a reused version of the Crushers from the base game. Even then, I'm going to touch on him briefly because I feel like it. Watch out for his fists of blood that he'll throw at you if you even try to take some of his meat from him. And watch out for the slams that he'll cause on the ground, just like he does to his wife every Saturday night. Otherwise, this is a fight that just screams go to town and hard. And honestly, I don't mind one damn bit. Last thing I want is this fucker to slam my dick in so hard that I can no longer use it for its intended purpose, to pee in a hot topic.
Dinner time's over, pig.
After defeating Long John Silver himself, we get to see his pile of meat that he was eating, and oh boy does it look horrible. We now search the diner for some dude's head, to then find the best weapon in the game, the hog roaster. Sounds like something I'd say out of context. Anyways, we find Young Ho's head inside said pile of literal shit, and then listen to a recording of Hope eating her own arm. I'm sorry, but what? We return Young Ho's head to his body moments later, before realizing that, yeah, he's turned. Goddamn. So after dispatching the local orphanage of its staff, we reveal the way to a secret room, thanks to Brink. Remember this for later. Hey look, it's now later, and inside the infusion lounge, we learn that Brink is the one responsible for this ascension. They also happen to be the same people responsible for the OSKs found back on Ocean Avenue in the base game. Suddenly, the screen talks to us, and then we learn that, Constantine is a fucking AI dog. You gotta be kidding me. This is where the DLC starts to tie the base game lore back into itself, and makes it feel pretty relevant by using some of the first people that we meet after the plane crash and to prove that yes, Haus actually complies with the base game story surprisingly well. With the secret now out about the fact that we were spied on by the Dog of Wisdom, it's confirmed that the Ark is under attack, and it's up to us to stop the Ark from being destroyed and ascend ourselves into the zombified version of hell. I've been wanting to ascend anyway. The world we live in now is actual dog shit. After running through what can only be described as the hole, we pop out of the other side to see the Ark for the first time. Our goal here is pretty simple. Pop all of the dark brains to deploy the Ark, and do the necessary puzzles to allow us to ascend further into the chamber. This does take some time though, requiring you to use Fury mode to break some areas open and solve some puzzles. This is where we get introduced to Fury emitters. They're basically the equivalent of recharge stations for Fury mode, that'll fill the gauge up after a few seconds for you to use, without needing to kill enemies to fill it. This does come in handy, as you'll be using Fury mode quite a lot in this segment, and these recharge points are everywhere inside of Haus. After successfully deploying the first half of the arc, we plunge into the inner chamber itself and prepare for a rather large battle. Now it's up to you to destroy the remaining Dark Brains on the arc, and deal with wave after wave of zombies that are coming to drill their tentacle flesh into your face. It's basically just COD zombies, except there's no pack-a-punch, no timer, or no Easter egg, meaning that it's actually just COD zombies, but without the worst part. Anyways, after way too long, I finally finished the gauntlet, and went up to the arc to ascend into what is probably the Shadowlands. We get shot by lightning, and have flashbacks to major characters and people from the base game, helping tie this entire story together in a little bow. Otherwise, that's pretty much it for Dead Island 2's first DLC of Haus. Much like the base game, there's some fuse doors you can unlock, and some side quests and points of interest to visit. This post-game is going to be the same for our next DLC as well, and I think it's now time that we get to that. So grab your guitars, your Lunchables, and probably the only attractive girl you know because you're a loser and don't have friends. Holy shit, I just described myself. As it's time to head to the southern parts of Hell A, otherwise known as Grove Street Rated R, to the newest attraction on the block, the Sola Festival. Welcome to the raddest, baddest, and downright scariest rock and roll festival that the Western United States, without the United, has ever seen. The Sola Festival has sadly been overrun thanks to a mysterious beast that somehow managed to turn 30,000 people all at once, and caused the biggest live reenactment of a Nakado Avocado video that the world has ever seen. They all just got hungry at the same time, I guess. Point is, we arrived to find a survivor inside this makeshift house of sorts, but unfortunately we then meet a new member to our cast of zombies, fucking Daddy herself, which is a perfect segue to talk about our new zombie friends. Yes, the Sola Festival brings with it 2 brand new zombie variants that you're gonna need to watch out for. The first is the Whipper. She's an angry looking mother bitch that is going to whip you with her own intestines like it's Daddy hitting you with his belt after you fucked around and found out. Only this time he's got multiple ways to do it. This includes the bitch swipe, the cowgirl lasso, Daddy's spanking time, and yandere rage. The Whipper is the only Apex variant that, when she screams, will not allow you to use Fury mode for a short period of time. In my opinion, this changes up the gameplay significantly and makes dealing with Whippers in large groups much more threatening. This is especially important when you have 2 of them on you at once. This can happen pretty frequently, and with their rather large health pools, you're gonna need to tackle them very carefully. In a way, they kind of remind me of the Smoker from the Left 4 Dead series, but if the Smoker was a melee class. Apparently, they like to self-mutilate, implying that yes, they too have been single their whole life and are taking out the pain on themselves just like me. Our second new Apex variant is the Clodder. These big fat hunks of Texas metal motherfuckers are the living embodiment of the average male born and raised near the border. They can liquefy themselves to move around like this is Splatoon on a Tuesday. They love to slap you aggressively whenever you try and say anything to them, and they spew their own version of red jizz at you that hits like freight train on semi. They attack pretty damn fast, being one of the fastest zombie variants, in my opinion, and their attacks are no joke. Even for a max level character, I died far too many times to just Clodders alone, which I guess goes to show that if I ever ended up in the zone, I'm gonna be clogging up a lot. These guys are hard to keep track of thanks to their aforementioned movement. Once they've been hit enough times, they will decompose and effectively teleport somewhere random around you, making them really hard to keep an eye on. So take your time with these guys and you should be fine. You're not gonna see them super often, but they are lying around in the Sola Festival, and much like the Whippers, they can be extremely dangerous when mixed together with large groups of other zombies, not to mention their large health pools. Regardless, with that explanation over with, we head into the Bluebird's basement. Yes, a Bluebird bus has a basement, to meet Grace, a woman who has gone completely insane thanks to the apocalypse, as well as the beat that is playing in various sections of the park. We now have a general idea of the plot of this expansion. We need to put a stop to the beat before it gets so loud that it somehow manages to corrupt the entire planet. Sounds like an episode of Evangelion. This involves going to various areas to capture the souls of zombies and fill up mood speakers. You can think of these speakers kind of like the soul chests from COD Zombies. These speakers function in the same way, requiring you to fill them by killing zombies near them. Orgon balls, pretty funny, are what you get once these speakers are completely filled. You can throw these at your enemies to do massive bursts of AoE damage and show them that, hey, your balls just dropped, and hard. These balls are going to be important towards the end of the DLC, so remember these for later. After solving the beat issue at Fusion Point, we enter a literal dream made of LSD, showing someone talking to us about said beat. And as said in the book of things that must occur in video games, she's being cryptic as shit. We make haste for the Indie Zone, home to where all of the indie game studios live and thrive. It's also the place where shuttered studios go to die. After powering up the DJ deck and playing my Fire mixtape on the populace of Hell A, we return to LSD Land to talk to the Weed Queen again. And without giving any good information whatsoever, she tells us to find the beat, which really isn't helpful given that We don't even know its origin point yet. We return to see Grace and receive the quest Shit Hits the Fan, so clearly, you know what's about to happen next. We make haste for the fancy Eco Village, and it turns out that it's basically just Lurelin Village from Breath of the Wild if it was actually good. That's not me saying that Lurelin Village is bad, but what I am saying is that it's a much more realistic approach to it, and I like it. Yet for some reason I feel like I'm about to be in a Mr. Beast video. It's probably got something to do with an island and losing $800,000. Sometime later, we get to the end of Eco Village to find a wind turbine that has crash landed onto the ground and is somehow still spinning. There's also, like, a lot of blood. So the game tells us to do the only thing that makes sense. Rip and tear. Oh, so now I see why this quest is called Shit Hits the Fan. I thought it was gonna be my fake girlfriend getting into an argument with me. About 80 seconds later, the turbine finally breaks, and heading further, we get stopped by that thing.
Oh shit, not good.
Ring ring, motherfucker, what's poppin'?
Fuck's sake. Quit playing and over, will ya?
Man, this door sure is heavy.
Have you looked to our Lord and Savior, the fucking devil known as Uncle Stan?
That's one ugly motherfucker.
Shut your trap up, you Irish girl!
Hey, I can speak to a pillow stain however I want.
Fuck you, I'm gonna complain on Twitter!
Do that, big boy. Welcome to the first boss at this festival. Shocker, it's not the music, even if it was so metal and hard that it turns you on. I'm of course talking about the Clotter duo known as Tom and Jerry. These fuckers just love to screw with each other, just like any group of butt buddies would do if given enough time. And they're not afraid to screw with you too, even if it means causing you to jump a cliff. Equipped with an AK-47 strapped to their fucking mouths, they will shoot the equivalent of a water silo worth of cum at you. They will also aim it at you like it's a yard sprinkler, and will make sure that they cover you in their juices like it's their own private lawn. They're also gonna try and bitch slap you, like, a lot. Their ways of doing this includes the backwards flip, the get away from me 4 times in a row, as well as the hug me lunge. Their movement isn't exactly difficult to master, but with their large health pools, rapid rate of movement, and combined with the fact that they're usually in groups of other zombies, much like the Whippers, it makes them very hard to deal with. I will admit that yes, I died several times on this fight, and it's mostly because this is the only time that you're probably going to be dealing with 2 Clotters at once, making it much more harder and much more nerve-wracking. This fight does feel a little bit hard, especially considering that it's a fight that's introducing a major Apex variant into the scene. Even so, it actually feels rewarding and makes for a really challenging boss that you need to be locked in for. But for now, let's end this fantastic duo and send them back to their mother's house where they belong. They need to be coached not to mess with my wide ass again, and if they do, they're gonna get shreked.
First and last thing they ever saw was my face. You're welcome, you melty feckers.
After defeating the cast at the Cleveland show, we stroll through the Eco Lounge before finally reaching the main stage. And I'ma just say it, the fact that this shit is in the back of the festival and it's on literal dirt so you can't sit on it and be comfortable is kinda cringe. Now we gotta do some sound tests in order to make sure that the stage is doing its job as a stage. I did light some people on fire, so I think it was worth every second. Although I did burn myself. LSD Lady is back, and this time she at least gives us enough information to convince us that, hey, she's at the club. So after our brief Discord call, the Dirge shows up and tries to kill us. I hit him once and the game tells me to run. So I became the average beta male pussy and ran away like a little bitch. We make haste to the nightclub to meet Weed Lady and end up at what is definitely the set of a Mr. Beast video. So after skinny dipping with the zombies in the pool for a bit, we head to Eclipse and die several times before we enter the front door. Look, I'm not 21 yet, so I'm not allowed to enter, okay? We then meet Cadenza, a character that we've met before in the base game, as one of the Newmans that slammed a door in my face for calling them fugly. Cadenza explains that while we cannot stop the beat, we can piece it together and see what it's saying. That's not stopping jack shit, girl. She proceeds to give us the quest Shifting Sands, implying that I'm about to go on the greatest quest line in human history that'll take 800 gigabytes worth of footage to complete. If you know, you know. We go to Warren Grace only to find that her compound is being overrun by Daddy's toys. So after dealing with them and explaining to Grace that she's definitely not insane, it's now up to us to find the true source of the beat by helping Cadenza forge the full beat and understand it. This involves returning to the Utopia and the Indie Zone to do the same shit that we did earlier in the video. And after researching the Utopia and having this drug dealer roll up on me. We finish in the indie zone sometime later. Returning back to Grace, we tell her that the message is actually a good thing, and she doesn't believe us. So she tells us to get the fuck out of her bluebird basement. You know, I was starting to like it down here, but fine, I'll leave. Just don't be surprised when it explodes later. Now, however, something unexpected is gonna happen. Serious? The game actually tells us to return to the base game's map for a quest, as we need to head to the OSK store on Ocean Avenue and talk to Constantine about receiving a file that Cadenza needs to fully understand this beat. Okay, number one, it's actually pretty cool the game uses the base game's map in some way for its DLC. And two, would this technically be proving that Constantine was also known by everyone, given that he's an AI being sold to the public on Ocean Avenue? This is too much for my gamer brain. TLDR is that this beat is actually a bad thing, and Cadenza just rickrolled us into allowing said bad thing to happen. It's here that we learn that Cadenza is going to blast the beat through the speakers at the club, which apparently can be blasted so fucking hard that they can be heard across the fucking globe. So with haste, we return to the Sola Festival to find that, yeah, shit just got real. Now with even more haste than a classroom being raided, it's up to us to save Grace, who is located on the main stage. So retracing our steps in what feels like a walk down memory lane, we kill many zombies that want to rip my dick off for wanting to pause the music. Welcome to the part where you die, like a lot. Rock the stage, more like scratch the page. This part is going to cause you many deaths because the game basically just gives you all of the worst Apex variants all at once and hopes that you'll be able to cope. One other thing to note is that your items do not reset upon death, meaning that you'll have to go recraft medkits and repair nearly every time you die. Boy, did I love getting destroyed by a crusher, a mutilator, a slobber, a screamer, a copious amount of runners, a butcher, and 2 whippers all at fucking once. Did this suddenly become a goddamn Dark Souls level? Like, holy shit. After spending nearly 15 minutes of getting my fucking anus drilled in, we finally reach Grace to tell her, hey, the voices are real, bruh. Just give in. So she gives in, and is all better now. That was the best doctor's visit I've ever seen. Now with Grace dealt with, it's time to stop Cadenza and end this beat once and for all. After she starts speaking the words of Satan himself, I begin running towards the nightclub faster than a Honda Civic can reach the moon. Once we get there, we find a rather large room complete with dinner tables, decor, and lots of lights. But that's not important, for what's about to spawn before me is nothing short of a fucking nightmare. Yo, Cadenza, I'ma post your feet pics on Twitter.com. You cool with that?
Sorry, bitch. I can't hear you over the sounds of the mask by Dream.
Girl, you better answer me right now.
Babe, cool your milkers. I'm trying to listen to my sick fire mixtape here.
It sounds like dog shit, my guy.
Well, that's clearly because your taste is ass. Just like your taste in women, you beta cuck.
I'm not a beta male. You better take that back, you son of a bitch.
I told you to stop touching me, you fucking weeboo.
Stop the remix, you sicko. It sucks balls.
You actually slapped me, a girl. What the fuck, bro?
Holy fuck, my ears are bleeding. Please make it stop. Is this what death feels like?
I'ma kill you now, loser. This is what you get for screwing with me. Cadenza from a ripped-off Descendants movie.
Guys, we need the power of friendship. Rainbow Dash do be busting at this thought. Take my hand. We have a city to befriend, Samurai.
Hey, sorry about calling you a bitch. Anyway, this shit's about to get real, yo.
Yeah, I noticed, you jackass. Holy shit, Cadenza, did you summon a bad dragon?
No, I just ordered from Wendy's, my guy. Actually, this is from Taco Bell, so I'm gonna don't explode your ass on my mixtape, okay? Thanks, bye!
What the fuck, Cadenza?
How you doing?
Welcome, punch!
Well, that didn't work.
Be gone, fuck!
That's a huge bitch!
I'm going to enjoy this.
Welcome to the final boss of the Sola Festival, and this video, the Coomstain himself. And much like literally any enemy in this game, if given enough time, this guy is more than happily to show you the front door of hell where you belong. Using the entirety of the nightclub as the battlefield, the Dirge is going to show you what the average nightclub experience is like, which involves dying and getting E-smashed so many times that it causes suicidal depression. I didn't think that dying to a flesh monster would make me feel similar to that of lusting for real women. I actually spent 45 minutes just on this one boss alone, proving that yes, it takes 45 minutes just to get off a high of hopium. So you're probably wondering, Panda, what actually makes this fight hard? And shocker, there isn't really anything new with this fight at all. It's actually just all of the previous bullshit that I've talked about slammed together, but it's how it's put together and how it's presented that makes it so challenging. You cannot hit the Dirge normally, thanks to his massive aura that he generates thanks to his Rothog cock. In order to actually damage him, you'll need to power up the mood speakers and throw an Orgon Ball at him. You'll know that he's vulnerable when the skull on his nameplate turns into his current level, that being 30. But don't think it's that simple.
Damn it.
There's a reason why the entire nightclub is being used here, and that is because this fight is a fucking 4-phase encounter. This shit just got ripped straight from World of Employee Harassment so hard that it makes me want to sue Blizzard for non-verbal consent, and I hate it. Normally, I would say that I love it, but in the case of this fight, it's actually more annoying than most end bosses. Like I mentioned moments ago, to make the Dirge vulnerable, you need to throw an Orgon Ball at him. However, the only way for this to actually work is for him to be near the main speaker at the back of the nightclub where the fight begins. This is going to be a problem because in later parts of the fight, you'll be moving away from the speaker and have to kite him back to the start to throw an orb at him. This can also be a bit tricky, as you're going to have lots of zombies and Apex variants chasing you down as you try to fight off Tombstone McGee. Otherwise, this fight boils down to killing zombies near various mood speakers to charge up the Orgon Balls, to then throw them at the Dirge when he's near the big speaker and do as much damage to him as you can, whilst dealing with any other additional zombies that may cross your path. He functions just like your normal Clotter, but he hits a lot harder and has a fuck ton more health. Overall, I actually like this fight. It's a fight that requires thought from the player and forces them to strategize about what their next move is going to be. It is a shockingly good final boss that delivers an experience that is pretty damn cool, but even so, it still feels annoying with how it's played out, and I would have liked to have seen a more unique version of this boss, one with some unique abilities that only the Dirge can use. For an overarching villain for this DLC, he's pretty damn good, especially for a zombie game. Now, however, let's end this hunk of Alabama cotton and finally get out of this damn festival, to return home and take some Advil from my pains. After all, there's one thing that this video is doing. It's destroying my prefrontal cortex and sending it into Maxwell's basement.
I will find you. I will end you. This isn't the last of me.
After swiftly telling Cadenza that she's a rude-ass bitch for wanting to end the world, we return to find Grace not being inside an insane asylum. And as thanks for breaking her of the Curse of Sounds, she gives us a legendary saw blade launcher, with the capability to saw our enemies into two, because it's not like we couldn't do that already with our normal weapons. Overall, that is a wrap on the Sola Festival. Thank God, now I can return home and tell Mommy about how some scary men kidnapped me and took me to their strange event, known as the Burning Man Festival, except it's much worse. So, what are my final thoughts on Dead Island 2's DLC expansions, Haus, and the Sola Festival? If I'm gonna be honest, they're far better than I expected. Haus delivers a similar experience to the base game, using the same enemies as a major point. However, its areas are rather unique, and its puzzles and questing experience is way better than I anticipated. Not to mention, its story is connected to the base game rather well, using well-established characters and lore to craft a simple yet gripping story. Its atmosphere is also pretty good too. It's dark, it's gripping, and in many ways, it feels scary. And while Haus didn't bring anything amazing to the table, it was still a great expansion. And my only major complaint is the fact that it didn't bring any new Apex variants into the picture, which cannot be said for the Sola Festival. In my opinion, I think that the Sola Festival DLC is one of the best DLCs that I've played in a long time, bringing with it a massive world to explore, a literal playground, if you will. This DLC brought with it significant changes to how you play the game, by introducing new zombie variants that can disable Fury mode like the Whipper and constantly be checking your surroundings with the Clotter. Its boss battles, while a little weaker than I expected, delivered quite well and provided a genuine challenge that I simply did not expect. In my opinion though, the biggest weak point with the Sola Festival DLC is its story, because while Haus felt pretty connected with the base game's lore, the Sola Festival, in my opinion, felt far more disconnected. I'm not saying that this and the base game's lore don't work together. They do. Cadenza is a major player in the base game's lore, alongside the other Newmans. However, this whole beat concept definitely feels like something that was made up to help connect this to the base game's lore in some fashion. But generally speaking, my purchase of the deluxe edition of the game feels justified, as these DLCs proved their weight and delivered what I believe to be some of the best DLC expansions that I've played in quite some time. With Dead Island 2's expansion pass over, Dambuster Studios isn't done just yet. In a recent blog post celebrating the game's 1-year anniversary, the developers have confirmed that more updates are on the way throughout 2024 and beyond. In other words, while the world's biggest undead party in Hell might be over, Dambuster Studios isn't planning on letting this game ride into the sunset just yet. And quite frankly, I'm proud that this game has taken 10 years to hit store shelves and to see that it's still going 1 year after its release. And to Dambuster, I'm proud of you. Keep doing God's work. And with that, it's time for me to go get a beer at the indie zone. So I'ma head out. My name is PandaPowerSauce. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.